He never meant to speak. For months, he carried the memory like a fever, silent, shaking, replaying it in his mind whenever the traffic lights flickered red. But last week, under a false name and an untraceable phone, the taxi driver who dropped Yu Menglong off that night finally broke his silence. His voice, when it came through, was low and uneven. "I wasn't supposed to be there," he said. "That route wasn't even on my shift." According to internal GPS logs leaked to Shadowline reports, the driver's taxi made an unplanned detour around 1:14 a.m., rerouting through an older district of Beijing long marked for demolition. The area had no streetlights, and his car's dashcam, which should have been recording, showed only static for 7 minutes. The blackout matches the same gap found in the surveillance network that night, the same window when Yu Menglong was last seen. "I picked him up outside a side entrance, not the main one," the driver said. "He didn't say where to go. He just got in and said, 'Drive until the lights stop.'" At first, he thought the actor was drunk or playing some kind of role, rehearsing maybe. But as they moved deeper into the city, something strange began to happen. The farther they drove, the fewer cars appeared. The air outside thickened, and the street lamps began to blink one by one, fading behind them as if swallowed by the dark. "I kept checking the mirror," he said. "He was just sitting there, staring out the window. But when we passed the old underpass, I saw something that made me freeze. The reflection didn't match." The driver said that Yu Menglong's reflection in the rearview wasn't moving. It was facing forward, eyes fixed straight ahead, even when Menglong turned his head to look out the window. It was like two versions of him were there, the driver said, one inside the car, one behind the glass. He pulled over near an abandoned overpass to ask where the passenger wanted to go. That's when Menglong finally spoke. "Do you hear that?" he asked. The driver listened. At first, there was nothing but the low hum of the engine. Then a faint clicking sound, like someone tapping on glass. The noise wasn't outside, it was coming from the car's window, even though no one was near it. The driver turned on the interior light, but the bulb flickered and went out. "He just smiled," he said. "Not at me, at the window." Moments later, the radio, which had been dead for the entire ride, turned itself on. A low static burst filled the cab, followed by a man's voice repeating a single line, "Turn around when you see yourself." "I looked in the mirror," the driver said, "and for half a second, I thought I saw another car behind us, same model, same license plate, but it wasn't there when I turned." Menglong asked him to stop at the next intersection. When they arrived, the GPS signal cut out completely. The driver said the area wasn't even mapped, just an empty grid. "He paid me in cash. Old notes, worn out," he recalled. "And before getting out, he said, 'If anyone asks, I was never in your car.'" That was the last the driver saw of him. He didn't think much of it until 2 days later, when police traced his plate number and asked for dashcam footage. But when he retrieved the SD card, it was blank except for one file, a single frame of video showing the backseat. In the grainy reflection of the window, Menglong was still sitting there, staring at the lens. Only this time, the seat beside him wasn't empty. There was someone else, the driver said. A shadow, same shape as him, sitting just out of focus. He deleted the file immediately, or so he thought. But the next night, it was back on his desktop, renamed passenger_1.mp4. He tried to play it again, but it glitched halfway through. This time, the figure in the window moved, turning its head slowly toward the camera. The frame froze just before the reflection smiled. 3 days later, the driver was found unconscious in his cab, parked beneath the same overpass where he'd stopped with Menglong. The engine was off, but the headlights were still on. The dashcam was recording again, a feed looping endlessly between 1:14 and 1:42 a.m. Authorities dismissed it as exhaustion and stress-induced hallucination. But when Shadowline reports obtained the vehicle's system logs, one line stood out in the digital record. Video file auto-updated by external source. No network was active at the time. Neighbors near the old underpass claim they still see a single taxi appear on foggy nights, idling with its headlights flickering, no driver inside. And every so often, a passenger-shaped shadow shifts in the back seat, visible only when light hits the glass just right. The driver, now living under a new identity, says he still receives calls from unlisted numbers. Each time, the caller ID shows the same timestamp, 1:42 a.m. He doesn't answer anymore. When it rings, he said, I can hear it through the radio too. The same static, the same voice. It always says the same thing, keep driving. Investigators who analyzed the cab's recovered hard drive noted a strange digital signature embedded in the corrupted file, one that matches a previously unidentified pattern found in the leaked surveillance archive from the same night. Experts aren't sure what to make of it. Some believe it's residual data, a cross-recording artifact. Others say it's something else, a signal. Forensic technician Li Jian, who reviewed the metadata, said, it's almost as if two recordings were merged, one real, one not. Like someone else was recording the same scene from a different place. When asked what he thought happened to the missing minutes in the dashcam blackout, Li paused. I think he didn't drive through the city, he said. I think, for those 7 minutes, he drove through something else. The driver's current whereabouts remain unknown. Authorities claim he relocated voluntarily after the interview, but his vehicle was later found stripped of electronics, mirrors removed, windshield shattered from the inside. One note was left on the driver's seat, handwritten in black ink. It read, the lights never stop. They just wait until you do. Police have not commented publicly. But last week, a clip appeared online under the username Silent Passenger 42. It showed the interior of a taxi cab identical to the one used that night. The timestamp, 1:42 a.m. In the reflection of the window, a faint outline sat in the back seat, a shape too familiar to mistake. The account was deleted within an hour. The driver hadn't planned to speak, but the moment he agreed, he seemed almost relieved, as if sharing the story could lighten the weight he had carried for years. He described the streets that night like a dream slipping between memory and reality. The air was thick with fog, damp from the previous rain. Neon signs flickered overhead, and in the rearview mirror, Menglong's face remained motionless, his eyes distant, almost unnerving. I tried to make small talk, the driver admitted, voice low. I asked him about work, about the concert he'd just left, nothing. He didn't answer. And then he whispered something I'll never forget. Not everything you see is real. The cab passed under a series of streetlights, and each time the light hit the windshield, the reflection of Menglong's face seemed to warp, stretching for a brief second. The driver described it as liquid, like water moving over glass. His hands shook as he recounted the moment. I thought maybe I was seeing things. Maybe I was tired. But he was smiling at me, or at something behind me. When they reached a narrow alley, Menglong directed him to pull over. The alley was lined with abandoned storefronts, shadows pooled in corners as if the darkness itself were alive. The driver swore he saw movement, silhouettes darting just outside the cab's peripheral vision. I checked the mirrors, he said, and there was nobody there. But the reflection in the rear window, it showed someone standing. Watching us. Not me, not him, but another presence entirely. He reached for his dashcam to record it, reasoning that if he captured evidence, he could explain the feeling of unease later. But when he pressed play, the screen remained black. Then, slowly, a faint image emerged, a shadowy figure in the back seat, sitting just behind Menglong. It wasn't entirely visible, a flicker of movement, a distorted outline. The driver said he tried to rewind, fast forward, reset the system, nothing worked. Each time he looked, the figure's posture shifted subtly, always facing him. Menglong finally spoke again, his voice soft, deliberate. Do not follow, he said. Not for yourself. The driver paused, unsure whether he had heard correctly. I thought he was joking. But the tone, it wasn't playful. It was warning. Something in the way he said it made my blood freeze. They drove on, eventually emerging from the alley into a deserted part of the city. Here, the streets were silent. Even the occasional hum of distant traffic seemed absent. A streetlight flickered, and in its brief illumination, the driver claimed he saw a reflection in the side mirror that wasn't his own, an older, gaunt face, almost matching Menglong's features, though distorted and warped. The figure vanished when he blinked. When the trip ended, Menglong paid in cash, exact change, bills worn thin. Before leaving, he looked at the driver and whispered once more, remember the face. It's not over. The driver filed the incident away in his mind, thinking of it as a strange encounter with a celebrity. But the following day, when he reviewed the dashcam footage to ensure the ride was recorded, he found the same 7-minute gap in the middle of the video. When the clip resumed, the backseat image was no longer black, faint outlines of what looked like two figures appeared, moving subtly, almost imperceptibly. One matched Menglong, the other, something else. He took the footage to a tech specialist, an independent investigator who had previously worked with unsolved celebrity cases. The analyst froze when he saw the file. "This isn't corrupted in any normal sense," the specialist said. "The frames are overwritten intentionally, but by what, I cannot tell. Every time we open it, new details appear. Movements, shadows, even audio fragments we hadn't noticed before." The driver described his nights following the trip. He couldn't sleep without feeling watched. Reflections in mirrors seemed to twitch when he glanced away. Streetlights outside his apartment flickered at 1:42 a.m. every night, the exact timestamp of the end of his ride with Menglong. On one occasion, he found his rearview mirror in his garage turned inward, though he hadn't touched it. On another, the car's radio emitted a soft static whisper, "Do not follow him." After months of reliving the events, he finally spoke to Shadowline Reports, sending the recovered footage through an encrypted channel. The file itself now contained anomalies that weren't present originally, fleeting images of Menglong smiling faintly, a shadow shifting behind him, and an audio snippet of someone breathing softly, but not Menglong. The specialist warned the driver against further analysis. "Some things appear in digital space only once you've noticed them. They propagate," the investigator said. "They're almost alive in a way. They respond to attention. The file changes based on observation." In the last days before going into hiding, the driver recounted an incident at a toll booth. He claimed the electronic display showed a warning message in mirrored text, "You will see it again." The attendant nearby noticed nothing unusual. Surveillance cameras in the booth recorded only the cab approaching and departing, nothing more. Finally, he disappeared. His apartment was found abandoned, personal items scattered as if he had left in a hurry. The dashcam remained in the car, yet the footage now showed a final scene he had never recorded, the cab driving itself along the alley where he first felt the presence. The backseat was occupied by a faintly illuminated figure, head tilted toward the rearview mirror, its eyes unmistakably fixed on the lens. Authorities have dismissed the case as a missing person incident. Yet copies of the dashcam file continue to circulate online, appearing mysteriously in private folders, encrypted drives, and unlisted video channels. Analysts who attempt to open it report sudden computer malfunctions, strange shadows in reflections, and a persistent feeling that someone is watching. For the world outside, it is merely a taxi ride. For the driver, it was a crossing into something unexplainable, a night when the city itself seemed to bend around a single passenger. And for anyone who dares to watch, the footage ends the same way it always has, at 1:42 a.m., a flicker of a figure in the back seat, Menglong's eyes fixed forward, and a whisper in static, "Do not follow." Even now, months later, independent investigators report seeing vehicles matching the driver's cab moving along the same streets, empty, headlights flickering in sync with the timestamp. Some swear that if you peer closely, you can see the backseat reflection, two figures. One, the familiar face of Yu Menglong, the other, something else entirely. The taxi driver's own fate remains unknown. His friends, under assumed names, report occasional encrypted messages from untraceable numbers, each reading the same, "Keep driving. Watch closely. Don't blink." Every piece of evidence, every recovered frame, every whisper from the static seems to confirm one terrifying idea: the night is never over and the ride never ends.